And so he continues his walk as a soldier marching like he's in style, walks up to the bakery. She's not there. She doesn't work there anymore.
Hey guys, so welcome to day 2. I'm late. I already watched my Feels panel. I'll probably put snippets in before or if not afterwards. We're over by the library too. So they're signing. Where's my thing? We're signing here. And then right here is the tent. There's another panel going on right now. But yeah, it was really good. It was a very storytelling based panel, which was fine. It was about the teen stories and why they're important, and all the people that were on there were really great. It actually made me want to look into a couple of things. So yeah, well, you'll get some snippets about that. But yeah, day 2. I have books with me for later from romance Latina authors to get them signed. So I bought more books. Shh, don't tell my husband. But yes, we got books. We're gonna get them signed. Yes. But that's it. That's the intro for today. I will check in later, and we'll also get some more B-roll. There'll be more of me walking. Yeah. Oh, also, I am gonna sign up for the Poetry Society. That'll be later.
Right. Our panelists today, this beautiful morning, are James Garcia, who's right there, Ronnie Rivera Ashford, Reynalso Santa Cruz Jr. And I'm Selena Barajas, and I am honored to be the panel moderator for today's discussion. So let me read a little bit about who our authors are. James E. Garcia is a Phoenix-based playwright, journalist, university lecturer, communications consultant, and an actor, as I witnessed at Safford Middle School on Friday. As a journalist, he has worked as a reporter, columnist, editor, and foreign correspondent. He is currently hosts the weekly radio program and podcast. Sorry, can you say that name? But yeah. James has taught creative and nonfiction writing, ethnic studies, theater, literature, and Latino politics at ASU. Okay, good. Thank you. Respect. ASU and building relationships here. The founder and producing artistic director of New Carpa Theater Co., James is the author of more than 30 plays, including the upcoming The Two Souls of Cesar Chavez, which we hope to see live here in Tucson one day. Ronnie Rivera Ashford is an accomplished international bilingual award-winning author with over 150,000 copies of her books sold to date. And hopefully today more will add to that number. Her Jewish and Mexican background, as well as being a bilingual preschool and elementary teacher in Nogales and here with TUSD and SUSD for more than 30 years. Ronnie recognized the necessity for more bilingual children's books. Because of this, she has the ability and natural gift to relate to children and adults in both English and Spanish. Some of her books include My Nana's Remedies, Los Primeros de Mi Nana, Miguel and the Amazing Alebrijes, and most recently, she is the author of this book that I have here in my hands, Raulito, the first Latino governor of Arizona, el primer gobernador de Latino de Arizona. Our last author, Reynalso G. Santa Cruz Jr., born and raised in South Tucson and graduated from Pueblo High School, where all my lawyers at, you see some here in the room, has been a bilingual educator and advocate for more than 5 decades, serving as a bilingual teacher, program director, principal district county office administrator, and superintendent in California. His first book, which I have here in my hands, and will be for sale as well, Olvido de Barrio Libre, The Life of Reynalso M. Santa Cruz, was awarded the Mimi Lorenzo Best Family Story of 2021 Silver Medal by the International Society of Latino Authors. Ooh. This story is a book within a book about his father's family life, Army service in World War II, an imaginary baseball game based on real events in the 1930s in Tucson. Proceeds from the sale of this book go to towards 3 charities, including the Pueblo High Alumni Foundation for Student Athletes in Need. Now I'm going to allow each one of you all to just briefly introduce yourself and share some words with us before we get started with the Q&A or with the questions I have for you. Ronnie?
Good morning, everyone. Buenos días. Es un honor estar aquí con ustedes. It's my honor to be here with you today, and especially to be here representing a book that is so dear to my heart, as all of my books are. This one took 9 years to come to fruition since I had the dream that gave me the idea that I needed to write the story about Governor Castro, who I had met just a few months before I had the dream, and he had given me a copy of his autobiography. And so I followed my dream. I wrote his story. I asked his permission, and he gave me his blessing. And in writing, I even have a notarized paper giving me permission to write his story for young people. And then when I first created it, I did it in the style of a picture book, which my previous 3 bilingual books were. And then I realized, after having many rejections from publishers, that it was too much information to put into a picture book, and so then it took a bit of time to transform it into a YA chapter book, which is now available. This is the book, and it is bilingual, English and Spanish. So I look forward to speaking with you more about it. Thank you.
Reynalso G. Santa Cruz Jr. The G is for Gallego. So the Gallego family, this book is about my father mainly, but the Gallegos are all over it because we were all always integrated on both sides of the family. And just a quick aside, 12 siblings in the Gallego side, and then 6 on the Santa Cruz side. And so 18 tios or tias, and I have about 40-something first cousins. So thank you. So my book was to recognize the life of my father, which highlights his love of family, of baseball, and on the anniversary of his 100th birthday. I missed that deadline. I went beyond that. It looks into his life in Barrio Libre, which is encompasses most of the South City of South Tucson, and so it starts with his life and goes all the way to his death. It chronicles his service in the Army service in World War II. And he was a staff sergeant. His courtship and marriage to Lidia Gallego, my mom, and along with their children, their grandchildren, and extended family. This is a historical fiction, and it's a book within a book. The even number chapters were all about his life from birth to his death, and then the odd number chapters, I wrote an imaginary 7-inning baseball game, because in addition to being a great man, a soldier, a good father, he was a baseball player in the Sandlot Leagues here in Tucson in the 30s. So I created this imaginary baseball game with him on the mound, and he pitched for the Carlistas. And they were a Sandlot amateur team here who won the championship. So thank you again for being here, and I look forward to discussing more about the book. And also we have some books for sale afterwards. And one last highlight, I was also involved as a co-author in another book, and it's Mexican-American baseball in the South Bay. And South Bay is in the LA area. It encompasses Wilmington, San Pedro, Carson, Torrance, and I went to college there at Cal State University of Hills, and I played baseball there, so I was asked by the main author to write a chapter about the college, about the history of softball and baseball at Cal State Hills. Thank you.
Is it morning still? Or yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm in the middle of rehearsals for the play that she just mentioned. It's called Tucson Festival of Books. It opens tomorrow night this is Sunday. It opens tomorrow night at the Herberger Theater Center in downtown Phoenix. It's a workshop production. It's a brand new script. In fact, I was rewriting this morning. But I'll be performing it tomorrow night, and it'll run for 2 weeks. If you happen to be in Phoenix, it'll run for 2 weeks at Lunchtime Theater. So, as was mentioned, I'm a playwright. Wait till the jets go past. Not taking it personally, wherever you are. Okay, so I've written about 30 plays, more than 30. I counted recently, but these include anything from a 10-minute short play, which I wrote many years ago that won a Kennedy Center Award, called The Crossing, and several full-length plays, some one-act plays. Among the plays that I've written is a play called American Dreamer: The Life and Times of Raul H. Castro, which is how Ronnie and I crossed paths. All things passed through Governor Castro. And I wrote this play a number of years ago and performed in Nogales and Phoenix and Flagstaff. And I hope to bring it to Tucson next. And it basically tells the story of his life. I played Governor Castro. I had the honor to play him. And as I'd love to mention, my costumes include suits that Governor Castro gave me that he wore in the 70s. For whatever reason, he kept his suits for decades. And his wife was so glad to see those suits go. She's like, take as many as you want. Okay. So I took three, and different colors. So they were lovely suits, a classic kind of 70s politician look. And it was just an amazing honor to write the play. I'm not from here, been here about over 20 years in Arizona, but it's an amazing thing to write a play, not specifically because he was governor, although that's extraordinary because he's the only ever Latino governor Arizona has ever had. And we hope to have another one soon, sometime. But because his life was so rich, and I won't go into all the details here, but that's basically me. I do other things. I'm a freelance journalist. I do contract communications work for United Cerebral Palsy out of Washington, D.C., although I'm based in Phoenix. And then I have a radio program that airs on La Onda, 1190 a.m. in English, called Amor, and it covers national Latino issues. If you're familiar with Terry Gross on NPR, she's kind of an inspiration for me. So that's kind of what we do. So that's me.
Thank you all for being
Again, having no clue what writing was. I had a third grade teacher who pulled me aside. I think we had just written some, handwritten one-page story. It was supposed to be fiction. I don't even know what the story was about, except that it had something to do with a spider. And she took me aside after class and very kindly and compassionately said, this is a wonderful piece, and thank you for writing it, and so on and so forth. And it stuck in my head. I didn't decide to become a writer until many years later, and unlike Ronnie, when I was young, I didn't resist the temptations of life and got myself in trouble and ultimately got thrown in jail. And it was in jail that I decided to start working on basically what was the prison newsletter, and thought, and I was reading a ton at the time. I think I read 100 books that year, and because I had a lot of time. And so, of course, one of the people I read was Ernest Hemingway, and Hemingway was a journalist, and then became a fiction writer. And I thought, again, in my kind of simple brain, that's how you become a writer. You study journalism, and then you become a writer. And so I followed that path. Later, I went to college and got a degree in journalism, and got a job, and did that whole route. And early on in my journalism career, I started writing plays, which came naturally because journalism is all about dialogue. It's about walking up to people and asking them 10 questions, and they speak for 5 minutes, and then they say something amazing, and you go, oh, I'm going to write that down because that's the quote. And so you train your ear for dialogue. It's ultimately, and that's what playwriting is, right? It's exclusively dialogue. So that was kind of basically my path to it. And
he's a proud soldier. He's going to prove that he made it. So on the way, he was back home. He wanted to show the world that Pulido was back. He marched east on 29th and turned left on 6th Avenue. Along the way, several residents and business owners noticed the Army Staff Sergeant and did a double take. They didn't recognize him because when he left, he was a Harlem brawler. Now he was a staff sergeant, and he was proud. Orale, Santa Cruz, welcome back, looking good. He also noticed the different changes to the storefronts, and as he headed north on South 6th Avenue, he approached Grand Central Barbershop, where before he left for the war, he would get a haircut. He paused and looked through the window, then opened the door to say hello to the owner, little boy Figueroa, and his co-worker Frank. After they exchanged handshakes, his co-worker, they asked, "¿Qué de nuevo, Pulido? What's new? When did you get back?" He explained that he had just arrived in Tucson the day before, and he was on his way to Nikkei's bakery. He was hoping to visit the Gallegos. Before he finished explaining the visit, little boy instantly interrupted. "So, you heard Lydia broke up with Danny?" "It's been 6 months now. He gets his haircuts here, and he told us about the breakup. She doesn't work there anymore. You know, we get all the gossip and the news here at the barbershop before the newspapers." Before the story had finished, Santa Cruz said goodbye and exited the shop. Now he's determined to go to DK's bakery. And so he continues his walk as a soldier marching like he's in style, walks up to the bakery. She's not there. She doesn't work there anymore. So the owner tells him, "No, she's across the street at La Suprema Tortilla Factory." So sure enough, puts his flight cap on, heads over to La Suprema, and before he goes in, takes his cap off, checks his hair, as you can see in the picture, checks his hair, checks his breath, throws a double med chewing gum in his breath, and he walks in and he stabbed in the chin and says, "Mr. Garcia, Sergeant Santa Cruz requests permission to see Lydia, sir." And then he salutes her. And the owner and Lydia's like, my mother's there. She's, "Ay, Dios mío, you're back." Anyway, that's in the book, and that started the courtship. And so my mother would tell me and tell my sister these stories, and that was like etched in our brains. And so that was such a great thing to do and to remember about our parents, their courtship, and anyway.
All right, let's make our panelists. On the end here, we have Priscila Oliveras. She is a USA Today best-selling author and 2018 double Rita finalist who writes contemporary romance with Latinx flavor. Proud of her Puerto Rican Mexican heritage, she strives to bring authenticity to her novels by sharing her Latinx culture with readers. She earned her MFA in writing popular fiction from Seton Hill University, where she currently serves as adjunct faculty, and she also teaches the online class of romance writing for Ed to Go. A longtime romance fan, Priscilla is also a sports fan. If you follow her on social media, you know that she loves the University of Florida. She's a beach lover and a Zumba aficionado who often practices the art of napping in her bathroom. Welcome, Priscilla. Next, we have Angelina M. Lopez, who writes sexy stories with fierce women and the men Latina to fall in love with them. She is a lifelong romance reader and fan, and a champion of the concept that good art doesn't have to feel bad. Her first book in a new high-heat, small-town Latinx series, After Hours on Milagro Street, was named a Best Romance of 2022. Please say great. Next, we have Alexis Daria, who is an award-winning international best-selling author of Hola, A Lot Like Adios, What the Hex, and more. A former visual artist, Alexis is a lifelong worker who loves Broadway, musicals, and pizza. Her latest release, a special edition of her debut novel, Take the Lead, is now in print for the first time and available. Yeah. Please welcome her.
Priscilla Oliveras is a USA Today bestselling author and 2018 RWA Rita Double Finalist who writes contemporary romance with Latinx flavor. Proud of her Puerto Rican Mexican heritage, she strives to bring authenticity to her novels by sharing her Latinx culture with readers. Then there's stuff that we're cutting out. She earned her MFA in writing popular fiction from Seton Hill University, where she currently serves as adjunct faculty and teaches online. Teaches an online class called Romance Writing. A longtime romance enthusiast Priscilla is also a sports fan, beach lover, and Zumba aficionado who often practices the art of napping in her backyard hammock, which is an important and very important part of her day, I'm sure. So now I'm going to move down to Scarlett St. Clair. She is an international USA Today best-selling author and is a citizen of the Muscogee Nation and author of the Hades and Persephone Saga. The Hades Saga, King of Battle and Blood, and When Stars Come Out. She has a master's degree in library science, and information studies, and a Bachelor of Art in English writing. She is obsessed with Greek mythology, aren't we all? Murder mysteries, and the afterlife. Next, we're going to go to Lico Albanese. She is an award-winning novelist and journalist with an amazing book cover over there. And she, the book Hester is an Audible Best Book of 2022. I just downloaded it and started reading it, listening to it on my walk home yesterday. And Indie Next, a Canadian and American Librarians October 2022 selection. A Gillian Flynn Best Books of Fall 2022. A Book of the Month Club selection of finalists and good best books. Yeah, I mean, these people are just so rocking my world here. Lori's novel, Stolen Beauty, was praised by the Wall Street Journal as a work of art itself. So we're not going to talk about that because Esther is just going to own the day.
Welcome back. Last clip. I got some barrel. I should say that. I just didn't show a lot of books this time. I didn't actually I chaotically walked around this year. That's mostly because I spent a lot of time with my uncle. But besides that, I have unpacked my bag because I brought it back this time because I was bringing books. So I had my 2 books that I was bringing for Alexis Daria to sign. Had me at Ola, which I will cover my real name. How am I going to do this? Like that. So she signed it, and she gave a bunch of extra things. So this bookmark. There we go. And it's double-sided. So, a lot like ideals. And then, I love this because of Jezebel. But she gave us a sticker. I feel like I want to put it on my water bottle, but I'm also terrified to put it on my water bottle. Like this water bottle. Or maybe I'll put it on the one that I have for here. That doesn't get beat up as often. I don't know. And then a sticker for Take the Lead, which I haven't read, but she talked about, and now I kind of want to. So, options. And she put those in You Had Me at Ola book, because obviously that was like the first book on my pile. Then I had a lot like Adios, which I am still in the middle of reading. And I cover up my name, and she signed there. And then I told you I bought books. I was like, don't out. But they had, what the heck? Like, I saw this and I was like, nope, I need it. I loved this novella. I listened to it. It's the reason why I got the like Audible preview subscription thing. I loved this. This was I read 2 different novellas for Hispanic Heritage Month, which I know the vlog is not up. It is kind of it's gonna be like a reading vlog-ish. It will come up eventually. Will it come up by next Hispanic Heritage Month? Oh no, but it will be up mostly because it has like book reviews in it. That's why I want it up. But we got this. So yeah, and she signed it. Ooh, wait. There we go. It says, keep it hexy. I loved it. Loved it. And then Angela Lopez was also there. And I got After Hours on Malago Street, which is on my list of books I want to read. I just wasn't sure because I had a lot of not great reviews, like saying it was good, but like not their favorite, and so on and so forth. And she actually talked about that in the panel, how she had a lot of conflicting reviews for lots of reasons, especially because she had very strong. She writes strong female characters, Latina, strong female characters. So I just doubled my genders there, one on purpose and one on accident, whatever. But so I talked to her, and she signed this also because I listened to her yesterday. I think I mentioned, but you'll see when I post the clip. So I was like, no, we're gonna read this next quarter. And I want to have a copy of it because I respect her. Very much like I did last year with the Love and Taco series, where I respected the author. And I was like, no, you got me. You got me. I still don't own a physical copy of her book though. If she had come this year, I would have bought it. But I have read the book now, and I am going to read the next one as long as once the audio comes out. Because as you guys know, that's how I consume all my books. But here we go. Cover my name. She signed it there. She signed it in like a pink pen, and it says, "It's an honor to meet you." And she had her card, and then I'm gonna just do this. But this QS card is for the next book. It's called Full Moon Over Freedom. And she said that it's supposed to be like the next book in the series, so I'm gonna have to scan it and check it out. But those were the books, and those were the 2 extras that I got. Yeah, but so I went to the first one where I got all of these signed. Well, actually, let me go back. So I went to my uncle's panel, which was a Latinos and Latino stories or something along those lines. And it was really great, as I did mention in like the clip earlier. So I met, I didn't technically meet, but I kind of met this lady who wrote a book on the first Latino governor, first and only so far, Latino governor of Arizona. And it's a big deal because, again, he's the only one in a state that it has a huge Latino, Latin population. So, and they talked actually a lot about him because, which his name is Rolito. No, well, I'll put it, and I'll put the book because I don't remember what it's called. But it is a chapter like middle grade YA. She called it YA, but then she called it a chapter book. So I'm wondering if it's more like a middle grade book. But she, it's like bilingual. It like flips over, so it's like if this part was English and then you flip it over and it had Spanish and like, you know. So well, I don't know if you haven't read books like that before. But she was very nice. She actually talked to my uncle a lot. They kind of connected. It was interesting. I think she knew some of my family, but I tried not to get it. It's like when your family has been here for a long time and you somehow end up being related to like boys you've had crushes on, or you find out your best friend is not related to you, but literally like their nanas live like right next door to each other. Like, yeah, I try not to. I just don't want to touch it. Yeah, so that was there. I hung out with him a little bit, helped him. I took a lot of pictures for his Instagram, helped him with promoting his books, which I'm fine. I love my Theo. I want him to be successful, and it's fine. It's fine, especially because again, all his proceeds, unless it's going through another bookstore, like actually, the bookstore that the library picked to be partners with this year, last year being Barrio Books, which I've talked about a couple of times, and if you're on my Instagram, I repost them all the time. This time it was Coffee, Books, and Revolutionary Grounds Books and Coffee, which is this little thing. I posted it on my Instagram, and I'll put in their information down below. But they're a local bookstore. I know it's backwards. Why am I trying so hard for you to see it? When I was looking for local bookstores to look into, I don't think this came up on my search. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to check it out. But yeah, I was trying to figure out where was I going with the story. Unless it's being sold through like a local bookstore or like Amazon, where they still take like a cut. If my Theo sells it directly, and then whatever he gets from his part from the companies, it all goes to charities. And like I said, I'll have all that linked down below. Or if I can get a beacon set up for him before this video goes up, it will be in the beacon, and I'll tell you that it's his versus mine. I think my name's your name's on it anyway. I don't remember because I just copy and paste and I don't even think about it. Yeah, no, I think my name is part of the URL of the beacon. I'm thinking Charros. But yeah, so I hung out with him. My parents showed up. We talked a little bit, and then I left them while they kept talking to go to this panel where I got the book signed. And that one was Charros, Brujas, and something. I don't remember what the third part was because I didn't write it down. But yeah, it was again about Hispanic women and stuff like cultures and things like that. So they again, we're very much talking about how writing Hispanic or Latin love stories and why it's important to have those stories told by Latinas or just Latin people, and how, yes, a white person could technically write the story, but they don't have the same lived experiences, the same views and outcomes that we have as a first person situation. So that was very heartwarming to hear, especially as, again, I have a series for kind of that same reason. I want to highlight Latin books, whether they're romance or in general, because I have a mixture of just Latin books, authored books on the series. My uncle's book is not a romance book. I have that one. I have some like YA fantasy books. So, and I have it in a range. I haven't read a middle grade yet, but I have a middle grade on my list. I just haven't read it yet. But yeah, so I have a range of ages and genres, and that was kind of the point of the series is that I wanted to find books that represented me and books that were not just about the immigration story, because kind of like actually how I was talking to, who was it? I think it was Alexis, when I was getting the videos and the books signed. It's an important story and it needs to be told, but it's also can't be the only story being told, because we as a culture, as a people, especially people who are multi-generation here in America, it's not the only story that's here. It's not the only story that is thriving and working. And I love it that people talk about this, that people say it, that people are unapologetic. Angela, and Angela. I'm going to say her name wrong so many times. You guys know I'm so bad, even though I just heard her name being said. She is loud and proud and unapologetic. I can see where her characters are probably like that. I can also see why some people don't like it, but I'm excited because I was also going to read Lush Money for the Hispanic Heritage Month, one of the bingo cards. I just didn't get to it, but I'm definitely looking forward to it and this. So, and I'm loved that she used the title to like self-identify as a Mexican American, and I told her that, and I had almost the same conversation as the author of the Love and Taco series, which I can't remember her name. I should have this prep. Do I? No, because I don't write the script. But either way, so for the Charros and Brujas panel, the couple things that I took away besides like what I just said, also they were talking about how they kind of touched on it a couple times, but talking about machismo or like just toxic like masculinity or misogynist things, and how it relates within like our culture, which is like machismo, or just like in general, and how toxic some of the like first romances could be, how we view it now, even though we didn't view it that way then. Even though we didn't view it that way then. And they talked about how Angela writes what she defines as an alpha female or strong, empowered women. And she makes her female heroes or heroines unapologetic, strong. They're successful on their own, not needing the hero to make them successful. They are successful on their own. Women being unlikable means that she's strong, then just do it. Then that's fine. You don't have to be apologetic for being who you are. Again, with the cat, not that she said that, but I'm saying it, as long as you're not like actually hurting somebody. But I highly doubt that's what is happening. Also talking about how, we have like, heroes here within the Hispanic community, and machismo is something very strong, very prominent. I mean, me, myself, besides my family, I swear being related to everybody in the state, why I didn't necessarily like the idea of dating any Hispanic man. And actually, my whole dating history, except one, and it ended up being a very, very negative relationship. All my other exes throughout my life had been all white men of different ranges, except again that one. And it's hard because it's so rooted, and even white men can have that same problem. So the moderator had asked, like, how do you handle that with like the heroes and stuff like that? And both of them were, not both, all three of them really were acknowledging the fact that their heroes aren't that way, or they've already worked through it. Like, it's not their heroine's job to help them fix their machismo. But you have to be aware that machismo is still there within the culture, within people, and that's how you use it as a foil. Some of them were talking about how, yes, maybe the hero, the love interest, he has worked through and he is not that way or has never been that way, but the family around the heroine, around the main character, perhaps in her family, there's machismo, fighting in that way. And I thought that was a very good way of still keeping it present. And when she said that, I think it was Alexis actually that said that, or it may have been Priscilla who said that. And having read some of the books, I was like, you know what, the authors really are doing that. And I'm like, that makes sense, because it's not necessarily making family the bad guy, but it's still a pressure on the two main characters. So, and that's all I wrote down. There's so many other things that were amazing, but those were like the big highlights that I was like, I need to write these. Then I went and applied for the Poetry Society and went and got some food, which was okay. I have a clip of it. I didn't tell you guys what I ate yesterday, which I ate Panda Express. It wasn't exciting. But I ate a brisket sandwich from Fresh Fire Barbecue, which is like a local barbecue place in Tucson. And I got a soda. Unfortunately, they only had Coke. Again, why does everyone have Coke? But we are Dr. Pepper fans here. But I felt like it needed more, even though I wasn't necessarily still super hungry. Again, being that if you haven't seen any of my streams, I'm on a new medication and it's kind of messing with my eating and stomach, mostly in a good way, but it's still weird. That's also why I have this too, just all helping my diabetes and helping me stay healthy and not fall into bad things like past family. But either way, I digress. I got chips and stuff. And kind of just looked around some more of the festival, waiting for the next panel. Then the next panel came up, and it was called Inspired by ... And it was about taking inspiration from literature and stories and mythology and history and making new stories on that. So there was, I think because A was the last panel of the day, and B, it was the last panel of the whole thing, and everyone was tired. I was feeling tired at this point. I was definitely exhausted. But it was kind of casual, which was also kind of nice. They were definitely talking about how the like retelling, reimagining kind of thing works, and taking that inspiration from the past and bringing it forward. Also realizing, I think it was Scarlett Sinclair who mentioned, we kind of don't necessarily change, where you can take a story from the past and really find a correlation here. And like they're exactly or very similarly the same. And it's just like, wow, humans. But they were talking about how really to transform these stories, even stories that don't actually have a happy ending, but making them into something positive, there should always be this line of hope, of like happiness, even if it's dark. Also give, mainly because women have been persecuted for so much of history, and squished down. And it's reflected in our stories. So if you're writing a story from a woman's perspective, especially a woman who in the original story didn't have a lot of viewpoint, or didn't have a lot of voice, that's the word I was looking for, then give that woman an empowered ending. End the story with that woman's empowerment, however it looks. However you think that empowered ending is, write it, present it. And that's kind of, again, how you like alter that story into something good and positive. And then because they did have, I forget who, what her name was. They did have one author who was not actually a romance author, but she wrote like historical fiction. That's why she was there. But Priscilla Orleas, saying her name wrong, and Scarlett Sinclair are romance authors. So the question was really brought up on, you know, how do you present like bad guys and monsters and things like that in something that should be to a degree like happy, and or how do you create them? And they were talking about how that very like internal problem, and how a monster or a bad guy can be or is there to just wound the character, and then the character grows, or learns or heals from that. And I thought that was, even though I've heard it before, how they said it, I was like, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. It was very insightful. And then I had a question and I was too scared to ask. So I waited for the line to go down a little bit so that people could get their book signed. And then I got in line, and then people ended up being behind me, but I was already farther in line and I didn't want to like go out and go back in. I was also getting cold because the clouds had come in, which meant there was no sun and it was no longer hot. And I wanted to ask Scarlett Sinclair, as she was like the person on the panel that was predominantly someone who did like mythology retelling or reimaginings. And I asked her if she had ever come across a situation where she's wanting to create a story from a myth that doesn't have a lot, that has, you know, like a sentence or something, but you're still like inspired by it. And she talked about how she's done like a Hades Persephone, and really Hades and Persephone's story doesn't have a lot to it, which it doesn't. But when I told her I was trying to do something with Aztec gods and how really, if I'm lucky, there's a paragraph of information, but most of it is like a couple sentences or just a sentence of general vague-ish information. And she was telling me what you need to do is kind of just take what you have and then also think about how you can modernize it. I didn't tell her I was making it into a sci-fi, but that gave me that I don't want to say freedom, but I guess permission. Not that I need permission, but the permission to be like, okay, I really can just manipulate this. Take whatever the like core elements are of the gods and their main story and then manipulate it into what I want, taking inspiration from the story, taking inspiration from the culture. She even mentioned their history during that time. And bringing that together with some modernization or like, because I'm doing a sci-fi, it would be like futuristic stuff to bring it to life. And that's kind of the privilege we get in creating a story. So I thought that was great. Priscilla was sitting right next to her too, and she even, I think when I mentioned Aztec, she kind of like tuned in and was also encouraging and mentioning, taking inspiration from what you can and things like that. So I was like, okay, thank you. And then I left so the people behind me could put their books down. Yeah, that was it. Now even though I didn't walk around as much, because I did want to go further out, which I don't usually do. There's like this line at the university where you have like cars don't go through there, but it's like an intersection. It could be an intersection. I don't ever cross it, and there are more things over there. I just like never make it over there. And I wanted to try this year, and I didn't, because of course I didn't, because yeah. I'm always wanting to do more panels instead. So I looked at like the main parts, closer to like the student union and Old Main, if you know anything about the U of A, Old Main, closer to that. And yeah, just looked around. Obviously I bought books, and yeah, that was how that went. I greatly enjoyed it. I recommend, and I wore the shirt that I bought yesterday. I was like, why not? It feels really nice. Like the texture is really nice. Not just this is nice too, but like the material, but the like feel of the shirt is like silky. It's like nice. But yeah, I recommend it. Come next year. I will link again the website to the festival, and you can sign up for the newsletter, and then you'll find out then like when the days are, and they announce authors and panelists there too, or at least when the like lists come out. They do events during the year, like online events since COVID, but I don't really ever do anything with those. And yeah, but if you don't, you can just follow my Instagram, and once they post their dates, I'll repost them and share them on my stories, and you can find it that way. But yeah, I recommend come, hang out, enjoy the authors, enjoy the like mostly good temperatures. I mean, this year at least it wasn't very hot versus last year it was windy and hot. This year it was cool and then warm and then just a teensy bit windy today. And it didn't start getting colder until really like around the last panel, honestly, because the clouds moved in. So, but yeah, it was nice this year, which is what I was hoping because it was really hot last year. But yeah, come hang out, join the festival, especially if you're local, if you're within Arizona. I do know that some of the hotels around the U of A do give discounts or special deals or something like that if you're going to attend the festival. And the website has information on that every year, especially if different hotels participate differently. So you can always check that out, like if you live in Nogales or in Flagstaff or I don't know, Show Low or something. So yeah, check that out. Or even if you live in like California, I say this even though I'm not going over there, but it's not that far if you have the ability and the money and you know and stuff like that. Because I would love to go to Steamy LitCon or whatever it's called, but I just don't have the money to go. But yeah, I'm done talking. I'm tired. And I'm gonna go and probably take a nap or maybe go to sleep early. I don't know. I haven't decided. But yeah, I'm gonna go. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this vlog and how it came out. And yeah, I will see you next time. And yeah, I'll link here the playlist for last year's Festival of Books. My words are dying. I need to go. All right. Thank you so much. Hit those subscribe, follows, check out the links. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go. Bye. Till stories and prosper.